Welcome back. Now, let's settle for the details. We are on for just 1 hour, and we've got a lot of package for you this afternoon. The chairperson of the National Commission for Civic Education, Kathleen Ade, has raised concerns over the increasing willingness of Ghanaians to engage in election-related violence. Her comments follow the release of a recent NCCE report on voter concerns, which revealed that some voters are prepared to resort to violence to advance their party's interests or respond to perceived electoral malpractice. The NCCE chairperson emphasized the urgent need to strengthen government institutions to restore public confidence in the electoral process and prevent violence. Kathleen Ade also stressed the importance of utilizing existing conflict resolution mechanisms such as the Peace Council to address disputes.
So it's actually very disturbing because when it comes to violence, you don't actually need a lot of people to have devastating impact. When it comes to violence, one person can really bring a major problem to our country. So it doesn't matter that, it's just the fact that we actually have people who are willing to say on record that yes, they are willing to participate in violent activities for one reason or the other should be a great source of worry to all well-meaning Ghanaians. And as a people, we should work together to ensure that we build confidence in the systems that have been set up for governance so that people will not feel compelled to take that course of action. And people should have the understanding that there are conflict resolution mechanisms that are available, you know, through various institutions, through the Peace Council, through various institutions. And we should use these mechanisms to, you know, resolve every kind of misunderstanding that comes up. When you go to the polling station, the parties already have representatives there who are doing the work of ensuring that the party is actually allocated all the votes that it gets when it comes to counting. If you have not been asked by your party to go and be at the polling station, you have no business going there to go and do party work. When you finish voting, go home. When it's time to count, you can come. When you come for the counting, stand where the EC officials ask you to stand, because there is already somebody there from your party who has been trained and has the responsibility of ensuring that the party's interests are well taken care of at the polling station. Nobody needs you to go and do any extra work there. So I think it's important that people understand that. So whatever, if you think that you've seen something that is not going well for your preferred party, you can always find your party representative and tell them. There are police available, you can tell them. The Electoral Commission officers are also there. There are observers at every polling station.
So we're going to chew on this report put together by the National Commission for Civic Education. In the studio is Victor Brobe, Deputy Chairperson, General Services at the NCCE. Victor, you're welcome.
Thank you.
We need to investigate the surname.
We do. I think it's the first time you've had two Brobes on Pulse.
Exactly. You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
So first, let me ask, is the NCCE ready for the elections in December?
To the extent that we can be given sort of the ongoing labor unrest, we have been doing election-related programming though for the entire year, with the objective of ensuring that Ghanaians have all the information that they need to make the right informed decisions come December. So well, I'd say that we are approaching an advanced state of readiness in terms of the elections.
Because you touched on the labor unrest, is it affecting your plans and your programs?
Not at the moment, not significantly, and we expect that they'll be resolved fairly shortly. So we are quite optimistic about sort of having our programs roll out uninterrupted.
Right. So let's talk about this report. Walk us through the findings. I mean, what informed first the decision to undertake this survey, if you like? Oh,
sure. Well, the commission, as you know, the Civic Education Commission is a constitutional body. It's one of the independent constitutional bodies established by the 1992 Constitution, along with the Human Rights Commission, or the Media Commission, the Electoral Commission. Our role is to educate Ghanaians about their civic responsibilities, to ensure that we have a better informed citizenry, to ensure that we have citizens that make political choices for the best reasons, and to ensure that citizens know what's in their constitution and know what their rights are. As part of fulfilling this mandate, every election year, we go to citizens and ask them what their main motivations are for participating in the political process. We have I guess a quadrennial survey called the Matters of Concern for Ghanaian Voters, which we've run every 4 years for a number of election cycles now.
Okay.
And the idea initially, or what has been the practice, was that we do the survey in March, April, get the feedback from citizens,
right?
Give it to the political parties, and that would inform even their party manifestos. And ultimately, should they win some of the policy outcomes of the parties. So it's something that we've been doing for quite some time now. So this year we rolled out a little bit later.
Is this the first one for the year, or we've done the April one already?
No. So ordinarily they would come earlier. This year we are a little bit late. Okay. So we've done this too late to inform the party manifesto making process. Nevertheless, there are still useful findings and useful evidence from the reports that can be used to inform the process and ensure that it's a good one.
And Victor, is there a reason why this is coming rather late? Because all the parties, they've launched their manifestos.
True, but essentially sort of logistical reasons. That's the primary explanation.
Reason that we can give for
the logistics did not come together early enough for us to do the reports as early as we'd ordinarily like.
Nevertheless, clearly, I think that the outcome sort of reflects what the manifesto is intended to do for the people. So walk us through some of the findings.
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, what the findings show that enthusiasm for democracy, though softening, remains quite high. An overwhelming number of Ghanaians intend to vote in the upcoming election. It varies from region to region. So Northeast, for example, is fairly high, in the 90s. In Greater Accra, it's in the 70s.
70%.
78%.
78%.
So, but still quite high.
Right.
So there's broad overall enthusiasm for voting, broad overall enthusiasm for democracy. There is a desire for the political party actors to pay more attention to specific issues that were highlighted by the participants in the report. There's still a focus on education. There's a desire that the parties focus more on health. There's a great request for improved infrastructure and also for just economic programs and employment programs, etc., that would have a measurable impact on their lives. So I mean, those were the 4 key issues that were highlighted. And actually, if you look at surveys going back to 2012, 2016, 2020, you would see that these issues haven't changed significantly across the various surveys that we have done. Perhaps in some years, healthcare infrastructure might be higher,
right,
or education might be higher, but generally those are the 4 things that the Ghanaian electorate really, really cares about.
Some say that the economy remains the #1 priority.
For some, yes.
For some.
For some.
We'll deal with the specifics, but I mean, you spoke about the percentage in terms of how people want to go out and vote. Did you get a national picture?
Yes, it's still fairly high. The national picture was still in the 80% range in terms of predicted turnout. So it's still quite high for a democracy, broadly speaking. It's still high for Africa. It's especially high when you compare our projected turnouts to, say, turnouts in Europe or the United States, where turnout can be as low as 60%. So we're still doing well as far as a belief and acceptance of democracy.
I asked because of some of the outcomes of the Afrobarometer survey that suggests that perhaps there is some kind of confidence level in our political structure is declining. So if people still want to go out there and vote, and it's about 80%, and clearly there is still confidence in the electoral system.
Yes, but there is still a reason for concern. What this survey shows is fairly similar to Afrobarometer and other surveys have showed is that while it's still high, it's softening. The figures in previous elections in previous survey cycles were higher. Whether you're talking about the support for democracy, broadly speaking, whether you are talking even about trust in the election management body,
right?
All those things, they are not below 50, but you'll see a decline, and that is something that we should pay attention to. So yes, there's broad overall support for democracy, but people are increasingly becoming more and more cynical about the democratic process.
Did you get a reason for that?
Well, there are a number of reasons, some of which would probably not be immediately evident from the survey. But you'll notice that if you sort of disaggregate the figures, that is younger people that are the most cynical towards democracy.
Right.
The reason for this probably has something to do with if you are young, if you are a person in your 30s or even early 40s, all you've probably known throughout your adult life is democracy.
Right.
And you don't recall that
ever being in an unconstitutional rule.
Exactly. You don't recall how things were significantly worse in the 80s and in the 70s when we did not have a democracy. So it's easier for people in that demographic to think that, well, this thing we are doing, is it really benefiting us? And maybe things were better in the old days, when that is actually not in fact the case.
Right.
When you get older, you see that the support for democracy is actually still fairly strong because they remember what Ghana used to be like, both politically and economically in the 1980s.
So the 4 key areas that stood out, and I mean, a lot of surveys that have also come up also points to job creation, for example, improvement in the general economic well-being of a lot of people. How do they expect politicians to address it?
Well, if you look at the reasons why they are voting for presidential candidates and the reasons why they are voting for parliamentary candidates, you'll see that they have an expectation, rightly or wrongly, that once you are elected to power to fulfill either one of those positions, you can have enough of an impact to improve their economic conditions, broadly speaking, whether it's through job creation programs, whether it's through support to the private sector, whether it's through doing public infrastructure projects that will attract jobs. So there's that public perception that politicians have the answer, so to speak, when it comes to the improvement in the economic conditions and particularly the job creation possibilities for the youth.
Yesterday, I heard about another finding that came out. People willingness to accept bribe to vote for this party or the other, and then the possibility of violence in the upcoming elections. Let's talk about the bribe aspect. Why would anybody want to accept money before deciding who to vote for?
Well, this is a reflection of the amount of cynicism that some, not all, some have developed in the political process. I mean, if you look at this, the survey sort of suggests that about 20% of the population are willing to collect a bribe to sway their votes, which is it's not high, but still quite disturbing. 20% can
of course,
affect an electoral outcome. And it's a reflection that, well, irrespective of how I vote, it's not going to have too much of an impact. So let me get what I can from these actors while I can and while they are in front of me. However, an overwhelming majority of Ghanaians expressed concern about vote buying and essentially said that they would not do it, even though they have seen it being done. Now, it's in a way, it's not surprising. What you've seen over the last few years, regrettably, has been an almost normalization of vote buying. It's quite pervasive.
Right.
Whether you are doing elections for class rep in an international school in East Legon, or you are doing national level elections or party level elections, you see vote buying. It's that's almost become part
institutionalized, like something that has been accepted as a norm.
Yes, and it's problematic because at least in respect of national elections, this is something that is expressly criminalized by various statutes. And so the concerns that are expressed by an overwhelming majority of Ghanaians is problematic, but it's still, we should still pay attention to the fact that some Ghanaians seem to be okay with vote buying. That's not very good.
But where's the motivation coming from? Is it coming from comments they hear? For example, we hear some of the politicians say that when they come to you and they give you money, take the money, but still vote against him. On the other hand, we see the open sharing of money and the display of it at their primaries, either presidential, parliamentary, even when DCs are being confirmed by the various assemblies. These allegations have always, been out there, and these days not even an allegation. The politicians themselves speak to it.
Yeah.
So is it the case that is what is pushing them to accept that this has become part of the system? For that reason, I should take the money. Yeah. And do they take the money and allow the money to influence their vote?
Well, that we would never really be able to tell, but it's certainly the case that the pervasiveness of it is also driving it more. The fact that everyone is doing it means that more people are okay with doing it and even admitting that they are doing it within the context of an anonymous survey. So yes, the figure is 20%, but most people know that this is problematic. For all we know, it could be higher than that. It could be higher, it could be 30%, it could be 40%, but it's only those that were willing to disclose their heartfelt intentions that are saying it's 20%. And it's a reflection of the fact that it's distressingly pervasive, and it's something that hopefully the law enforcement authorities will pay attention to in the upcoming cycle and also going forward. But
did you also get the impression that they are interested in the money rather than the plans and programs of the various political parties in terms of voting for party A or party B? So it becomes whoever is able to pay the biggest gets their vote, regardless of the plan and programs for the political party has for the nation.
I would not say that is the case. The reason I would say that is that if you look at the motivations for voting, overwhelmingly it's the planning and the ideas that the political actors are speaking to in the public domain that is the primary driving force for political behavior amongst the population for the most part. But even if it's 10%, elections is still high. Elections in this country are won by 3, 4, 5% margins, sometimes significantly smaller than that. So if you have even 2% of the electorate who are willing to sell their votes, yeah, that's something we should pay attention to.
And then there's also the possibility of violence in the upcoming election. Where is this coming from?
Well, there's a sense in which we've always had violence in our elections. Actually, going back to even our pre-colonial elections, there was in areas where the contestation was high, it sometimes degenerated into violence. And this particular cycle, some of the things that might drive the violence are things that always drive violence in previous elections, but some of them are also potentially new. I mean, we've always had violence where the parties are of relatively equal strength,
right.
and there's a feeling that with a little bit of pressure applied one way or the other, it can affect the outcome. You've always had violence in places where politics have been conflated with either land or ethnicity or chieftaincy disputes. And we've had violence in particularly when it comes to instances around by-elections, and there's been sort of a high level of attention on particular constituencies, that has led to a sort of cauldron effect where violence has occurred. So those things are things that can drive violence, and things that have been concerns in previous elections and will be a concern in this upcoming election as well. But also, we are now in a sub-region that is essentially in turmoil.
Right.
Burkina Faso is almost a failed state. The other former democracies in the sub-region, Mali, Niger, also in turmoil. We have dissidents and violent extremists potentially sort of coming across the border. And elections are always the tension around them, the uncertainty around them.
Right.
If you're a person who wants to stoke violence in the country, this is your chance.
Of course.
So we should be careful about that.
But I want to find out, is this putting fear in them such that they may be reluctant to go out and vote?
In some parts of the country, it has, and it will probably be the case going forward. But in an overwhelming majority of the country, that is
there's no such fear.
No, there's no such fear. But parts of the country that have fairly consistent or low-level violence, particularly in the northeastern parts of the country, yes, that fear may be there for certain electoral areas and for certain voting centers, but probably not enough to affect the
outcome of the election.
Outcome.
What about their trust in the police to deal with any violence that may come up?
Well, the trust in public institutions is high but softening across board. There's still trust there, but all public institutions around elections and around law enforcement, we all need to work hard to improve public perceptions about the work that we do, about our effectiveness, about our neutrality. All those things are things that we should not take for granted. These are all things that we should work on. So
are there other areas that perhaps you want to touch on before we begin to wrap it up?
The survey captured a number of findings. I mentioned sort of 4 key findings that have been of traditional concern to Ghanaian voters. But you'll notice that what's interesting, what hasn't been mentioned, and I'll sort of mention quickly, things that did not score as highly as high as, say, education, employment, and health, and road infrastructure and economy, were things such as the needs of PWDs, issues around sports, issues around corruption, issues around social services, and even surprisingly, issues around climate change did not
it didn't come up so strongly.
No, which is unfortunate because these are all fairly important, fairly topical issues. We're hoping that as we get closer towards the end of the cycle, and we start doing some local level parliamentary debates in areas where these issues are of particular relevance or are of particular import, they are brought before the candidates and they are made to address them.
Did the possibility of who will win the election appear in the survey?
That has traditionally not been the focus of this particular survey.
We didn't go to that.
That, no.
So what should the political leaders do with the outcome of this survey? What should the nation do with the outcome of this survey?
Well, this is important data as far as their campaigning and as far as their planning, both towards the election and beyond is concerned. This sort of highlights what they should be talking about, what they should be doing to improve education, what they should be doing to improve employment and health and road, etc. It's essentially a blueprint, if you like, for talking about issues that have the most resonance with the largest sort of group of Ghanaians. And in fact, if political actors are interested in the details of the survey, we actually break down the various categories. So in terms of education, for example, we actually ask, what are your recommendations for improvement in the sector? I mean, this is information that if you are a serious political actor, you can use to make a case to the electorate, and also in your policy planning after the elections. I mean, we pride ourselves in the fact that it was after our Matters of Concern survey highlighted education as a particularly education at the SHS level and how expensive it was. It was after our survey highlighted that issue that political parties
decided to look at the possibility of rolling out a free senior high school program.
Yes. So this is a survey that can have a really positive policy level impact for political actors that are interested in its findings.
Few questions before I let you go. I mean, we are 44 days away from the general elections in December. The political parties are advertising on radio. The EC is advertising. I haven't seen much from the NCCE because years back you would be involved in educating the public. There's an issue of small ballots, which has become a major issue. How do we ensure that people are well educated as far as the ballot is concerned, and the responsibility that the Constitution entrusts upon them when they go to the polling center? Sure. Is there anything coming up? Are you on it?
No.
Because we are not seeing much of that from NCCE this year.
We are, not only are we going to do more of it, we've been on it essentially for the entire year.
Okay.
We are very present throughout the country, in the various districts, in the various communities, in the schools, in the markets, in the churches, engaging in the kind of civic education that you just spoke about spoiled ballots, about the need to register when there was registration period, about the need to go and ensure that you are on the register, etc. We engage in all those activities. As you know, we are a very decentralized organization. The work really is
at the districts level.
That's where the work gets done. We are in every single district, all 265. And in some districts, larger districts, we can have even more than one office present.
And you would say that the education has gone very far, such that perhaps this year's election will witness very low small ballots.
Well, I'm reluctant to make predictions, but I'll say that we are hopeful that given the work that we have done, given the work that others have done, like this year, the amount of spoiled ballots will be hopefully
minimized.
Yes.
All right, Victor. Before you go, your final words.
We hope that Ghanaians take this survey seriously. The findings are on the website of the NCCE. So please feel free to download them, and feel free to follow us on our social media platforms as well. We are on all of them, and get a sense of what we are doing, and also get a sense of the civic education messaging that we have been putting in the public domain.
All right. Victor Brobe is from the National Commission for Civic Education, and the outcome of this survey, like he said, is available on the Commission's website. You want to understand the mind of Ghanaians going into the December 7th general elections. You want to go there, download it, read about it, and if you're a political party, I'm sure it provides insight into exactly what the Ghanaians want you to do for them. And I believe I'll have more of such discussions as we go towards the election. Thank you so much for coming through. Let's still stay on your election headquarters, because the running mate to the MPP flag bearer, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh, this afternoon is warned nursing and teachers, trainees not to fall for what he terms sweet stories of the flag bearer of the NDC, John Dramani Mahama. According to him, John Mahama cancelled the allowances for teachers and nurses trainees, but failed to honor the payment of the feeding grant he promised them. He says such a person cannot be trusted, and therefore the trainees must not fall for his promises. He was addressing students of Kolebu Nursing and Midwifery Training College here in Accra.
The gentleman who was the Minister for Health, who did candidate was called Rojo Metal Dulu. He said the money to go to the hospital, they diverted it to a campaign. What has hospital building got to do with nurses and teachers and law? I want you all to continue to tell NDC that we prefer the Alawa more than your sweet stories. Alawa is equal to MPP. Alawa near MPP near Bawomia near. So if, like you are telling me, if you want your allowance to continue, you have only one option. 7 December, what do you have to do? 7 December, what do you have to do? 7 December, what do you have to do? The reason is simple. The one who cancelled it for 2 years before Nana Dr. Akufo-Addo and Dr. Bawumia government appointed Mantokoko Prempeh as the Minister of Education and changed and brought back the Alawa. That person says that he cancelled the Alawa because he wants to build hospital. Have we finished building hospitals in Ghana?
So from the flag bearer, let's move to, from the running mates, let's move to the flag bearer. Because Dr. Mohamed Bawumia has revealed developing agriculture will be his biggest priority if he is elected president. According to him, technology development will be central to his agenda to modernize agriculture to help create the needed jobs to solve Ghana's unemployment situation. Speaking in the Central Region, Dr. Bawumia promised to set up cassava processing factory in the constituencies if he wins the December elections.
My biggest priority as a president will be agriculture, to help the farmers. We are going to bring irrigation, we are going to bring technology. Every farming district, Central, Tongo, and every of the districts in Ghana, what we have done for the roads with a drip program to give equipment for the construction of the road, we are going to bring agricultural equipment to every district for the farmers of this country. So every district will have a district agric mechanization center where we have tractors, we have combine harvesters, we have planters, all farming equipment that is available so that the farmers, when they need it, can get it to do their farming. So we are going to do that. But after we farm, you will need to process your goods. And I've been talking with Godwin, and we are going to establish a cassava processing factory for you to process your cassava when you farm your produce. And that is not going to be a problem here. We've looked at all that it will take, but it will not be a difficulty for us to give you a cassava processing factory.
To illegal mining, and teachers have renewed calls for a total end to galamsey after being the latest to suffer the impact of the menace. A board member of the NAT Cancer Foundation says more and more of their members, especially in the Ashanti, Central, Eastern, and the Greater Accra regions, are being diagnosed with various types of cancer. Christian Yaodinkra, who doubles as the fundraising and media committee chair, revealed to Joy News the education sector is rapidly losing many teachers to the plague. So we have details of this story for you after this break. This is The Pulse. You're welcome back. This is The Pulse. Now, let me take you back to our story about galamsey and the warning coming from the Ghana National Association of Teachers. They say that they've renewed calls for a total end to galamsey after being the latest to suffer the impact of the menace. A board member of NAT Cancer Foundation says more and more of their members, especially in the Ashanti, Central, Eastern, and the Greater Accra regions, are being diagnosed with various types of cancers. Christian Yaodinkra, who doubles as a fundraising and media committee chair, revealed to Joy News that the education sector is rapidly losing many teachers to the menace of galamsey.
My name is Christian Yaodinkra, the chairman for Medina Adenta Bokobi District NAT, and also a board member of the NAT Cancer Foundation, and for that matter, the chairman for the fundraising, media and publicity committee. And I must say that one of the things we are looking at, and that is worrisome to us as a union. For that matter, foundation is the fact that if you check the data we have received from the SGMC, the Sweden Ghana Medical Center, when you really look carefully at the data, right now, our teachers that are infected with cancer, the reports and the data is suggesting almost, when we look at it, we actually studied the data, we realized that Ashanti, Central Region, Eastern Region, and now Greater Accra, these three regions where most of the things are happening with the fact that Galamsey is coming from those areas. It is frightening. The numbers is actually frightening, such that teachers reporting to the center, teachers reporting from those centers or those areas have the numbers getting increased. And it's a worrisome situation to us as a union. And that is why we wanted to support organized labor, or that is why we supported that we wanted to strike in solidarity to ensure that Galamsey in any form is banned. Because look, it is our teachers that are living in those hamlets, those areas, that Galamsey is ongoing. They drink and eat the food from those Galamsey infested water and soils. And so the rate at which our members are reporting to the center, especially Ashanti, especially Eastern, especially Central Region, and of course Greater Accra Region because awareness to go and screen for early detection of cancer, that actually increased, and of course access to facilities in Greater Accra actually seems to be leading the chart now of those who report to the center, that is the Sweden Ghana Medical Center. The number is increased. So Ashanti is next, Central Region the third, Eastern Region the fourth. So we are appealing that, well, we are aware that as for Galamsey, it's as old as Adam, but the rate at which it's being done and how the environment is being threatened, we as union and we as individuals, we as corporate Ghana, we should take steps to ensure that these things are nipped in the bud. And that is why as a union, we were supporting absolute ban or temporal ban on Galamsey of all form.
And we're still no longer on Galamsey because a pediatrician with a Confanotti Teaching Hospital, Dr. Lawrence Osei-Tutu, has observed the troubling psychosocial impacts of illegal mining on mothers, children, and families in mining areas. According to him, many Galamseyers abandon their homes and families, leaving children to grow without guidance and become vulnerable to rogue social behavioral upbringing, contributing to long-term social and health consequences. With the absence of a robust welfare system, he assessed that the cycle of neglect in mining communities lack attention, feeding into the broader societal consequences. Dr. Osei-Tutu spoke on Love in the Morning on Love FM.
What makes a young man hear stories about mining pits collapsing on his colleagues, part of the rituals that they need to do to pacify the gods when they are mining is to sacrifice a human being babies. At a certain point, whether babies is a human being. You know, I've just described a 30-year-old who has died leaving behind a child and maybe two and a woman. That impact, people don't look at that. But all the problems we have as adults in Ghana, the majority of our health issues, especially the non-communicable diseases, start because our girls are poor, they are malnourished, and they give birth to children who are also malnourished. And the long-term effect is that it sort of has modifications on your body systems. And early in life, by 40, we are already experiencing diabetes and all these problems. Really starts from the way we do not take care of our children. So the social aspect, the psychosocial aspect, no father at home, leaving the teenage boy alone at home. People don't listen to that. So I know your question now is, what happens to the baby? The baby will be born deformed and all that. Yes, it is true. But there is a larger picture of looking at the holistic aspect of these activities. What drives fathers to leave home? So those are some of the indirect effects. And then we are talking about taking care of this child. I have no robust social welfare system. If somebody abandons a child in your doorstep right now and you bring the child to Konfanachi or wherever, a robust health welfare system should take care of that child. We don't have anything like that.
Meanwhile, Dr. Albert Kobina-Mensah, a research scientist with the Soil Research Institute, says despite the heavy damages caused to lands by Galamsey operations, revegetation will be effective in reclaiming degraded lands as it will neutralize poisoned lands.
Revegetation. So at the Galamsey site? At the Galamsey site. And what is the revegetation? What exactly are we supposed to cultivate? So there are some crops that have been found to be able to sort of either it does absorb the toxic element or it can stabilize it. Example is substitution plant, which is maize. Okay. Now we can plant maize at a polluted site. This is the science behind it. The maize is a C4 plant. It's a grass plant. So it is going to take up the toxic element into the root, and it's going to prevent it from getting into the edible part, which is the grain. Okay. So we call it substitution planting. Where other plants will fail, that one will do well. So it's a strategy. So we should make it wholesome to eat.
So that's very interesting, Martha. Now, farmers in the Asutifi South District of the Ahafo region are to benefit from a newly inaugurated rural service center at Adieswaba. This center, launched by ProForest and its partners, is designed to provide technical training and farm management services to 15,000 farmers with the goal of promoting sustainable agriculture and improving natural resources management in the region. There is more in this report.
The Rural Service Center is part of the broader Building Deforestation-Free Climate Resilient Cocoa Landscape Initiative implemented by ProForest Initiative Africa with funding from the Walmart Foundation. This program aims to cover approximately 45,880 hectares of land, contributing to land restoration, conservation and sustainable cocoa management. Specifically, 266 hectares of land will be restored, 20,000 hectares conserved, and 30,000 hectares dedicated to sustainable cocoa farming practices. One notable aspect of the project is its focus on empowering women. Nana Fusua Rekwa IV is Queen Mother of Adieswaba.
As I see a Diana, Minimsa Nunes, I met me to be the Abome dance. And for so dear Menya Nebin, Tressa Yaquay, Yatuchanina, says a chance of work to chat, and says a profile as a fana drink for buy a mono. I may sound for dear brain, say, Yako Nonko. Yenia by your board, dear baby, after the Yadian cocoa.
A female farmer shares her view.
So Naban. A bebuaye, a 5 year no 20 year human, was a no nabasto, a original. Aya papa esen say yakoto adrobi wo ho a emwaye yesu enam se yenimuntino ne ya kwaye adwuma na asai adwuma no.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony, Global and Africa Director of ProForest, Abraham Bafo, highlighted their commitment to promoting sustainable landscapes that safeguard forests, conserve biodiversity, and support climate-resilient agriculture.
Our mission is to support people to produce and source agriculture commodities responsibly in a way that it delivers positive impact for people, nature, and climate. And so for this Asinapo Asutifi HIA, we all know how Ghana we've lost much of our forests. We all know the implications of when you lose forest, implications on agriculture and implications on climate change. We all know the effect of climate change on agriculture. So our mission is to support here is to support the farmers to produce the cocoa and all other commodities they produce here in a way that delivers positive income in their livelihoods
but at the same time protect the forest and even restore areas that have been degraded, so that in the end we'll have a much better forest cover in this wider Asutipi HIA landscape.
The Rural Service Center is equipped with essential resources, including an input shop and farm management machinery, as well as meeting spaces for training in sustainable agriculture.
Well, that's our show for today, but before we go, there's news just coming in. Remember this Kaswa ritual murder in 2021? The court has come to a decision. The 2 teenagers that were standing trial for the murder of a 10-year-old boy in Kaswa, they've been found guilty of both murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The crime committed in 2021 took 3 years to reach its conclusion. The High Court delivered the final verdict, sentencing the second accused, Nicholas Kinney, who was 18 years at the time of the incident, to life in prison. Meanwhile, the first accused, who is 15 years old when the crime occurred, has been referred to the juvenile court for sentencing, as the High Court lacks jurisdiction to sentence the minor. And they admitted to murdering Ishmael for ritual purposes, because the spiritualists they contacted demanded 5,000 Ghana cedis and human blood, and they connived to kill the 10-year-old boy for ritual purposes. Now, the court came to a determination today. The 2 suspects, Richard Kinney and the other, they've been sentenced to, they've been convicted of murder. The 18-year-old boy has been sentenced to life imprisonment. The other one referred to the juvenile court for sentencing. Well, for more stories, log on to our website, myjoyonline.com. We have so many compelling stories for you there. But whatever you are up to in the hours ahead, I hope it's profitable. There's a national dialogue on women empowerment coming up immediately after the break. But for now, my name is Elton Gobe. Have a good evening and take care.